You walk every morning. You hit your step goal. Maybe you can walk for 30 minutes without stopping. And compared with many people your age, you would probably describe yourself as active. But then something strange happens. You stand up from a low chair, climb a flight of stairs, step onto a curb, or carry groceries into the house. And suddenly, your legs don't feel nearly as strong as your walking routine suggests they should. So how can you walk every day and still feel weaker? Because walking endurance and leg strength overlap, but they are not the same ability. And there's a third ability most people almost never think about, one that becomes extremely important when you need to stand up quickly, climb a step, or catch yourself after losing your balance. So before you add another 1,000 steps to your day, let's look at what walking does extremely well, and what it may be missing. First, I want to make something very clear. Walking is not the problem. If you enjoy walking, if it feels safe for you, and if your healthcare provider hasn't told you otherwise, there is no reason to throw away a habit that supports your health. Walking is one of the simplest forms of aerobic physical activity. It helps keep you moving. It challenges your heart and lungs. It supports endurance. And for many older adults, it is an important part of staying mobile and independent. So this is not one of those videos telling you to stop walking. In fact, public health guidelines for older adults specifically encourage aerobic activity such as brisk walking. But those same guidelines also recommend something else: muscle strengthening activity. And something else again: balance work. Those are listed separately for a reason. They do different jobs. Think about it this way. Being able to keep your body moving for 30 minutes is a little like keeping an engine running steadily. Strength asks a different question. How much force can that engine produce when the demand suddenly increases? And the difference becomes very obvious the moment you sit down. Because getting up again is not the same physical task as walking across a flat floor. Imagine you're walking along a level sidewalk. One step, then another, then another. The movement repeats thousands of times. For most people, each individual step requires only a fraction of the maximum force their leg muscles can produce. Now, compare that with standing up from a low chair. Suddenly, your hips and knees have to generate enough force to lift a large portion of your body upward against gravity. Or think about climbing stairs. Your leg has to push your body upward, or stepping onto a high curb, or rising from the floor. Your legs are being asked a different question. That's why one of the easiest mistakes to make is judging your leg strength only by how far you can walk. You might still be able to take a long walk, while beginning to notice that getting out of a chair takes more effort. You might still hit your step goal, while finding stairs more difficult than they used to be. You might be able to walk around a grocery store, but struggle when it's time to carry the bags up the steps. Those tasks overlap with walking, but they demand more force. So if you want a better picture of what your legs can actually do, pay attention to the moments when daily life asks them for more. A low chair, a staircase, a curb, getting off the floor, carrying something heavy enough to notice. And there's another layer to this, because even strength isn't the whole story. Sometimes your legs may be capable of producing enough force, just not quickly enough. There's a physical quality called muscle power, and it matters more than many people realize. Strength is about producing force. Power is about producing force quickly. That distinction becomes important because daily life doesn't always give your legs several seconds to respond. Sometimes you begin to lose your balance and need to take a quick step. Sometimes you need to get your body up and over a stair. Sometimes you stand from a chair and need your legs to generate force immediately. Sometimes your foot catches slightly on the ground, and you need to react before that small mistake becomes a fall. Life doesn't always give your legs 5 seconds to solve the problem. Researchers studying older adults have found strong relationships between lower body muscle power and physical tasks such as chair rising and mobility. That doesn't mean muscle power is the only thing that determines whether someone falls or stays independent. Balance, vision, medications, nerves, joints, cardiovascular health, and many other factors can matter too. But it explains something important. A person can have enough endurance to keep walking, while losing capacity in movements that require more force, or faster force. So now we have 3 different qualities: endurance, strength, power. Walking can contribute to your overall physical capacity. But doing one activity repeatedly doesn't automatically train every physical quality to the same degree. And this brings us to something your body is extremely good at doing: adapting. Think about the walk you've been doing for the last 6 months. Maybe it's the same neighborhood, the same 30 minutes, the same pace, the same relatively flat route. When you first started, it may have felt difficult. You got tired. Your breathing increased. Your legs noticed the work. But after weeks or months, something happened. It became easier. And that's good. Getting easier often means your body adapted. But here's the question: is the activity still challenging the exact ability you're trying to improve? If your goal is to keep your walking endurance, then continuing to walk makes perfect sense. But if your goal is also to preserve the ability to stand from a chair, climb steps, produce force, and respond quickly, your legs may benefit from another type of challenge. This is where the idea of progression becomes important. Progression doesn't mean doing something reckless. It doesn't mean using the heaviest weight you can find. It simply means that when your body becomes comfortable with a task, the challenge can sometimes be adjusted appropriately. For one person, progression might mean using less hand support when standing from a chair. For another, it might mean using a slightly stronger resistance band. For someone else, it might mean moving from a very low step to a slightly higher one, if balance and joint health allow it. The point is not to make exercise dangerous. The point is to give the muscles a reason to continue adapting. And researchers recently tested this idea in a very practical way in older adults who already had difficulty walking. The results are worth seeing. In a 2026 randomized trial, researchers studied 97 adults aged 65 and older who already had walking difficulty. The intervention lasted 12 weeks, and this was not an elaborate bodybuilding program. It was a brief home-based exercise routine that included functional movements such as chair stands and stair-stepping. What matters here is not the idea that a few seconds of exercise are somehow magical. They aren't. The more interesting part is that the exercises were specific, and they were progressed according to the person's ability. For example, chair stands could begin with more assistance. Then, as the person improved, less hand support could be used. Step height could also be adjusted. After 12 weeks, the intervention group performed roughly 4.2 more repetitions on a 30-second chair stand test compared with the control group. They also improved by about 2.3 seconds on the 5 times sit-to-stand test, and balance measures improved as well. Now, that does not mean everyone watching this should copy that exact program. It does not prove that 60 seconds of leg exercise is all anyone needs. And it doesn't mean a 12-week program solves every cause of weak legs. But it demonstrates something useful. Older legs can still respond when the challenge is specific, repeated, and appropriately progressed. So if walking is already part of your routine, the next question becomes, what could you add? Not replace. Add. One of the simplest examples is something you already do every day. Standing up from a chair. A stable chair can turn an ordinary daily task into a form of lower body strengthening. Your hips and knees have to produce force to bring your body from sitting to standing. And one advantage of this movement is that it can be modified. Someone who needs assistance may use their hands. Someone with more capacity may gradually use less assistance. The goal is not to copy somebody else's version. It's to find a version that is safe enough to perform well, but challenging enough that your legs actually have to work. And that idea, appropriate challenge, is much more important than chasing some magic number of repetitions. A second example is a supported step-up. Notice how different this is from level walking. When you step onto a stable raised surface, one leg has to help lift more of your body upward against gravity. That creates a different force demand. In research programs, step height can be adjusted as someone's ability changes. For a person with balance concerns, support may also be used. Again, the point is not, stairs are better than walking. That's too simplistic. The point is, a step-up asks your legs to solve a different problem than walking across flat ground. Different task, different demand, different training stimulus. A third option is resistance band training. And this is useful because strength training does not require turning your home into a gym. A 2025 meta-analysis looked at 25 studies involving more than 1,300 older adults. Elastic band resistance training was associated with improvements in several measures of lower body strength and physical function, including chair stand performance. Bands also make it relatively easy to adjust resistance. A lighter band may be appropriate at first. Later, if the movement becomes easy and technique remains controlled, resistance can be increased. There are many possible exercises. The band itself is not magic. The useful part is that it provides adjustable resistance. And other movements can do that too. A carefully chosen calf raise may work for one person. A machine may work for another. Body weight exercises may work for someone else. The exercise isn't the secret. The appropriate challenge is, there's one more piece that shouldn't be ignored. Balance. Stronger legs are helpful, but stronger legs do not automatically guarantee good balance. Balance also depends on your nervous system, vision, inner ear, sensation in your feet, medications, reaction speed, and many other factors. That's why activity recommendations for older adults often include balance exercises separately from aerobic and strengthening work. For some people, that might include simple, supported balance activities. For others, a physical therapist may recommend something more specific. And this is also where safety matters. If you've had recent falls, if you feel very unsteady when standing or walking, if you're experiencing significant joint pain, or if you have a neurological, cardiovascular, or other medical condition that affects exercise, your safest starting point may be different from someone else's. And symptoms such as chest pressure, unusual dizziness, or severe shortness of breath during exercise deserve medical attention, not a push-through-it mentality. The goal is not to prove how hard you can train. The goal is to keep building capacity safely. So what does all of this look like in real life? Keep it simple. First, keep walking. If walking is safe for you, continue using it for aerobic activity, endurance, and daily movement. Second, add strength work. General public health guidance recommends muscle strengthening activity on at least 2 days each week for older adults. That does not mean everyone needs the same exercises, resistance, repetitions, or sets. It means your weekly routine shouldn't depend entirely on aerobic movement. Third, include balance, especially if staying steady and preventing falls are important concerns. And fourth, progress gradually. When something becomes easy, the next step might be slightly less assistance, slightly more resistance, or another appropriate progression. Not because harder is always better, but because doing exactly the same easy task forever gives your body very little reason to develop a new capacity. The goal is not to exhaust your legs. The The goal is to give them a reason to maintain abilities that ordinary walking may not fully challenge. So let's make this extremely simple. Is walking good for you as you get older? Yes. Is walking the same thing as strength training? No. Should you stop walking and replace it with weights? No. And if your legs still feel weaker despite walking regularly, what may be missing? A safe and appropriately challenging combination of strength, power, and balance. That's the part your step count doesn't tell you. If you remember one thing from this video, make it this. Don't replace your walk. Complete it. Keep the movement that supports your health and endurance, but give your legs a safe reason to keep producing force, responding quickly, and staying steady too. Because the goal isn't simply to keep taking steps. It's to keep having the physical capacity to do the things those steps are supposed to let you enjoy. And exercise is only one side of this equation. Your muscles also need the nutritional building material to maintain and repair themselves. If you eat 2 eggs every morning because you're trying to protect your muscle, but you haven't thought about what happens during the rest of the day, watch the next video. It explains 5 common egg mistakes and why protein and muscle strengthening activity work much better when you think about them together.